Welcome to the Jerry Graves channel. This is a channel that talks about how to bring about justice. I want to go ahead and jump straight into the topic. But first, if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Let's jump into it. This is something I wanted to talk about that I haven't heard a lot of people talking about. A lot of victims of white supremacy agree to the system of white supremacy just in the way that they talk or the way they explain things. And I like to call it passive collaboration speech. All right, so I'm gonna give you an example from my personal life. All right, so at work, I had these really like beautiful young black women that worked in a separate department from me. So they ended up disappearing, and I was wondering where they went. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, where's those two girls at? This dude was just like, well, they got fired, and I was like, they got fired. He's like, yeah, they had an attitude. You know what I mean? Like, I'm surprised, and he doubled down on it. Yeah, those girls had attitudes, and the thing was is that they worked in a different department. There was no way that he would know that. They ate at different times. It was very rare unless they walked through our department for those two to be together, like to even talk to each other, be around each other enough to even know what their attitude was. But he was doing the stereotype thing, the idea that he just automatically said that they had attitudes. He's repeating what their boss said, which a whole different thing with their boss was she's an immigrant. You know what I'm saying? So she's already on the white supremacist codes because black people were always being told that we have attitudes. But that's a side note. The passive collaboration speech is the fact that he didn't say that the person that fired him thought that they had an attitude. He just automatically said they had attitudes. Like he wrote off those two young women automatically. You know what I'm saying? Just completely agreed to it. And then I was wondering why he said that, whether he agreed to it. Just the way he said it. And then a few seconds later he doubled down on it like those girls had attitudes. Like he knew for sure, and now he's putting on his own opinion. He's not explaining anymore. You know what I'm saying? And that right there is something that black people need to stop doing. We do this all the time. We repeat things from the white supremacists as if it's our own perspective. It's their perspective. Can you give me an example of them having an attitude? Like having an attitude is really code speech. It's a code word that black people get hit with all the time, where you don't have to explain exactly what happened. It's just they have an attitude and no further questions. You know, black people have black women in particular. Yeah, they definitely have attitudes. So dismiss them. It's dismissive, and we shouldn't be doing this to each other. And of course, the person I'm talking to was a non-American black person. They were actually from South America. Probably don't even believe that they're black, but he's obviously a black person. You know what I'm saying? But even people from America do the same thing, where we don't separate ourselves, and we're low key agreeing and condemning and writing off other black people. But to be clear, I want to say that him's just coming out and being and double downing on the fact that he thought that they have attitudes. That's not really passive speech at that point. The passive part is the fact that he worded it as if it's his own opinion, even though he's talking about somebody else's opinion. That's the passive collaboration speech that I'm talking about. And there's a lot of little things that we do in the way that we speak that automatically agrees or assumes or basically continues the system of white supremacy in a passive collaborative way that people really don't pay attention to. You're not saying it like you're saying that, like they're saying it. It's coming straight from you. And I waited, and sure enough, he actually did believe it. But if you hear that, like, listen to these types of people. If you hear that passive collaboration speech, and it's something to take note of. We all have noticed this, but we kind of like don't really pay attention to it. And I wanted to crystallize it and give it a term. You know what I mean? I wanted it so people can really understand with clarity, and we're not sitting around. You don't need to convince these people. We're not arguing. We don't want anything to be any more complex than it already is, but we understand them and we understand what it is that they're doing. And that makes the situation a little bit easier to deal with.